Hello, this is Dr. Grande. Today's question asks if I can analyze the presidential debate between Donald Trump and Joe Biden that was held on September 29, 2020. Just a reminder, I'm not diagnosing anybody in this video, only speculating about what could be happening in a situation like this. If you enjoyed this video, please like it, subscribe to my channel, and consider supporting me on Patreon. I'll put the link to Patreon in the description for this video. Presidential debates are interesting in that I don't know if they actually affect the outcome of elections too often, but in theory they certainly could. The object of a candidate in a debate is to swing undecided voters over to their side and to make sure that voters who already like them are engaged. These goals are accomplished by trying to gain ground for themselves while trying to get their opponent to lose ground. Now, coming into this debate between Trump and Biden, Trump is the incumbent and would typically have an advantage, but the polls have fairly consistently indicated that Trump is behind in the election. Now, in 2016, the polls predicted that Trump would lose, so many people don't have a lot of confidence in how those polls work. There are many issues discussed in the debate that are important to a lot of voters, like the economy, COVID-19, racial injustice, and climate change. Strictly from a behavioral perspective, linking to debate performance, coming into this debate, I think that both candidates had strengths and weaknesses. For Trump, he's typically quite confident in what he says, but his weakness would be the sense that he is narcissistic. For Biden, he's been a politician for a long time, so his strength would be stability, but lately there's been the sense that his cognitive performance may have decreased a bit. I talked about this in another video. Interestingly, I think the cognitive discussion has happened in part because Biden has been a politician for so long. So there's a lot of video recordings that we can look at and say, okay, he was a lot faster and wittier back then as compared to now. I'm really simplifying the strengths and weaknesses and again reducing them to how each person could perform in a debate. Here's how I think each candidate performed in this debate. I think Trump did appear confident, but he also appeared self-centered and immature. He didn't do himself any favors with the constant interrupting. I think this behavior really set the tone for the entire debate. It was chaotic. It was a noisy affair. It was just constant chatter, and whatever message was contained in there was really lost. Sometimes communication isn't just about the literal content of a message, but also about the way a message is delivered. Anybody can read a line from a movie, for instance, but not everybody is an actor. As far as Biden, I thought his delivery was a little stilted at times, but nothing that would raise alarms about cognitive performance. He actually did much better than I expected based on all those videos of him delivering gaffe after gaffe. There were a few times when it appeared as though he'd lost his train of thought, like there was this one point where he started answering the wrong question. But just about every time I noticed a little bit of a disconnect, Trump interrupted. So I find this interesting. Trump really denied the audience the best opportunity to see if Biden was having some difficulty with cognition. Biden can produce a very good explanation for those moments of being disconnected by saying Trump distracted him. And it seems like a fairly plausible defense. Perhaps Trump thought that he could elicit some type of cognitive slip through aggression and hounding Biden, but he really obscured possible indications of exactly what he may have been trying to provoke. Biden's performance was far from perfect. Even though I thought he did well in terms of speaking coherently, he also exhibited immature behavior several times, albeit in response to Trump's interruptions. He asked Trump if he would shut up. Without saying yes or no, Trump repeatedly and consistently answered this question throughout the debate. Biden also referred to Trump as a clown, demonstrating he has no interest in the often decisive clown vote. Biden also referred to Trump as a liar and a racist. I think Biden missed a huge opportunity to take the high ground and exploit that weakness I talked about with Trump, that perception that he is narcissistic. The trade-off, I suppose, is that if Biden was more passive, he would appear weak, like Trump was pushing him around the stage. I prefer to think that he would run the risk of appearing civil as opposed to weak, but perhaps in today's political climate, civility is just as frightening for many candidates. Both candidates provided a lot of misinformation in the debate, which really begs the question, what are debates for? If the candidates are not going to deliver accurate information, why do we watch? What do we get out of it? How does this advance our understanding of their potential performance and policy positions? Overall, the debate was really horrible. Again, just too much noise. It was brutal to watch. It was actually quite exhausting. Chris Wallace lost control several times, but I don't really think it was his fault. At the end of this debate, viewers are left with this reality that one of these two people will be president for the next 4 years. It's not hypothetical. It's a reality. This is the best that we could do in a country of 328 million people, over 200 million of whom are old enough to vote. It amazes me that these two candidates, who arguably possess above-average intelligence, are so disconnected from how people see them. Did they think this debate performance was good? Did they think that people would look at them and say, that's who I want to be president? It's indicative of a lack of insight or the adoption of a strategy that is poorly thought out. I'm not sure which one is actually scarier. Like, I think about this debate in terms of, is this the best they could do, or did they do exactly what they planned to do? Neither alternative is really comforting there. So who won this debate? Well, answering that question in this case requires redefining what it means to win. Here's an analogy that explains what I'm talking about. Let's say that you're at a racetrack where two cars are going to race. Initially, your understanding of how a race works would be that both cars would drive around the track, and whoever finished a specified number of laps in a shorter amount of time would be declared the victor. However, when the race starts, instead of driving forward across the starting line and beginning the race, both cars go into reverse and crash into the bleachers. Who won the race? It's hard to say. How do we calculate victory when no one actually performed the vital functions of the race? One could look at this and say, this is really about who lost less. In that case, under that definition, I guess I would have to say Biden technically lost less. The reason I would say this is because Biden was slightly less immature. Now, taking the particulars of what each candidate said and putting that aside, it disappoints me that voters can no longer expect civility in this process. This reminds me of one of my favorite movie quotes. It was from a 2004 movie called Troy, so I'll issue a spoiler alert for Troy. This movie was about a battle between the Greeks and the Trojans based on Homer's Iliad and some other literature. In the story, we see that Achilles, played by Brad Pitt, kills Prince Hector, played by Eric Bana, in single combat and takes his body back to the Greek camp, which is outside of the walls of Troy. King Priam, played by Peter O'Toole, sneaks into Achilles' tent and asks him to return Hector's body. Here's how that discussion went. King Priam said, "I love my boy from the moment he opened his eyes till the moment you closed them. Let me wash his body. Let me say the prayers. Let me place 2 coins on his eyes for the boatman." Achilles responds, "If I let you walk out of here, if I let you take him, it doesn't change anything. You're still my enemy in the morning." King Priam's answer to Achilles, "You're still my enemy tonight, but even enemies can show respect." Civility isn't a weakness, but it was the first casualty of this debate. Those are my thoughts on the presidential debate. Please put any opinions and thoughts in the comment section. They always generate an interesting dialogue. As always, I hope you found my analysis of this topic to be interesting. Thanks for watching.